Dr. Thomas Maples, and welcome again to my vlog. Today's topic is submitted from a fellow blogger in regards to men and insecurities they may feel, especially as it relates to emotional integrity. That blogger's name is Alexandra Maria Santos, and I will include a link to her blog below. I hope you enjoy. As I was reading through her post today, she really brings up a very important construct, and that's emotional integrity. And emotional integrity is a foundation really for any form of a successful relationship, whether it be with yourself or with the ones that you love. There's an age-old adage that you have to love yourself before you could love another, and in that construct is built within it is the idea of having emotional integrity. So what does emotional integrity means? Basically, it means having an idea of what emotional states are happening when and being accountable for those emotional states. Emotions we tend to view as being either positive or negative events, and for those of you who have read my blogs in the past, I use an acronym for E-motion, which means energy and motion. And that energy can have with it both positive and negative constructs. We tend to think of emotions like anger and sadness and fear as being negative events, where we tend to view love and happiness as being more positive aspects of emotions. But in reality, all of these emotions are really just neutral. Emotion, the idea of energy being emotion, energy is neither a positive nor negative. It actually has both aspects built within it. And so in regards to emotions themselves, what happens is they could have positive or negative consequences depending on how that energy is put into emotion or into motion. And so how does this affect relationships, and how does this affect insecurities in general? Well, the idea of emotional integrity is actually taking ownership of your emotional state. Now, emotions within themselves are not necessarily rational events. These things can lead for people to have negative days, even though they may have no reason to have a bad day. We have a saying, the person woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and there's no real explanation for this, but the emotion can control the general state of a person's day, which in turn can affect a relationship in general. And so Alexandra brings up a few different behaviors to look out for, especially as it relates to insecurity within men in general. She looks at, number one, being overly sensitive to criticism, and emotions can cause a person to be sensitive to criticism in general. The key to this is to identify whether it's constructive criticism or destructive, because like emotions themselves, there could be constructive or destructive forms of criticism that can drive a person more towards having bad emotions or more towards a positive state of fostering new emotions. Other areas that she identifies as being typical behaviors of individuals going through insecurities could be trust issues and abandonment issues, being suspicious of others' motives, comparing yourself to others or comparing your partner to other partners you may have had, being overly hard or critical on oneself, and other behavioral issues that could arise around sexual problems, as well as fears of being in photos that would really suggest an idea of permanence within the relationship. And so when it comes to emotional integrity, part of the construct to begin to really look look at consolidating this within your overall life pattern is first to be able to identify emotions. Now, earlier I talked about 5 basic emotions, and this is a roadmap that individuals can use, because the first emotion that we have, and really that comes online first, is going to be fear. And fear is really used to help you to stay safe. If you don't fear an object coming at you at 35 miles per hour, you're not going to be alive really long enough for the other emotions to take place. And so what happens when a person shows with fear is it's there to keep them safe, although fear within itself can lead to other problematic situations, especially when the fear is unwarranted towards objects that are not of danger. The second emotion that comes online really after fear is anger. And the fear part of anger, it really leads to a fight or flight response. And anyone who's ever watched a horror movie will know that the person that runs usually isn't the one that survives. And the worst scenario of this is actually the other part of fear is not fight that leads into the anger mechanism, but the freeze mechanism. And this is like the idea of a deer caught in a headlight. It's fear paralysis, and this really will begin to affect our interpersonal relationships as well as the capacity we have to survive. And so fear manifests itself into the anger emotion. And the anger emotion's on the ring finger for a reason, because it's relational in nature. Now, most people fear anger, but within the context of emotions, it's actually a very good problem solver. And so part of it is to understand both the pros and the cons, the constructive and the destructive aspects of emotions. The third emotion, which comes out of anger, is going to be sadness. And most people view sadness as being a negative event, but there are positive constructs to it. One of the main constructs that's positive with sadness is it causes us to self-reflect, and this is really where the idea of emotional integrity comes from. We have to go within to make sense of what's there, so we could begin to stand tall in spite of the negative and positive aspects of what's there. This is where psychotherapy can help individuals to move beyond the problematic aspects of their emotions and find that inner sense of happiness, because the fourth emotion, which is on the index finger, is actually the antithesis of sadness, and this is what most people yearn for, and it's a sense of happiness. The one problem with happiness is we tend to look for it outside of us. We tend to want to say, okay, this makes me happy, or that makes me happy, or that makes me happy, but we don't ever really look within. And this is really where the source of happiness is. While everyone chases happiness, it's one of the most elusive emotions. So in a way, happiness can be very problematic, especially if we don't know the aspects of what moves our soul towards that happiness. And the last emotion is one that is really a combination of them all. When I said the first emotion that came online was fear, I sort of fibbed a little. It's a little bit of a white lie, because all the other emotions arise out of this one emotion, and that's love. Love is on the thumb, and it wraps fear. We fear to lose the ones we love, and this is one of the major consequences of love. We tend to get angry at the ones that we love because it's relational in nature, and we love those people. And if they do things that upset us, we do get angry. The opposite of love actually is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. You simply do not care. If you are angry at an individual, it's because you love them. If you're indifferent to them, you just simply would not care. Being in love brings about enormous amounts of sadness. There's fear there, there's anger, there's sadness. It's self-reflective. You have to love yourself. And some point in time, we tend to lose ourselves. I don't get this, but I'm sure we'll discuss it more in future blogs. And that self-reflective capacity makes us go within to make sense of really what's there, so we could find that degree of happiness. And that degree of happiness exists both within and outside of us. A few points that she wants you to consider in her blog, which I agree completely, is how do you feel about yourself? This is the essence of emotional integrity. How do you feel about you? Are you in love with you? Not the narcissistic kind of love we read about in all the psychology articles, but do you have a deep and profound respect for who you are and where you're going? And if you do, great. This is the foundation of a relationship. Are you doing things that can sabotage your relationship? Well, coming from a point of emotional integrity, take a look at what's there. Are you happy? Are you making it work? And if not, find ways that you can. And then she ends with a great one that it should be a mantra for anyone who's ever been involved in a relationship. Did you tell your partner today that you love him or her? That is an integral approach towards any relationship and the foundation for which all these 5 emotions are built. We gotta love ourselves to love another. And if we do love another, don't forget to tell them that, because those words can make another's day. The key to integral emotions: stand up. Be in ownership of them. Don't sway with the wind. When you allow people in, even if you make mistakes, own up to it. They love you. And if you love them, great. Build the solidity of that relationship and move it forward. That's why we're in this journey anyways. I welcome any comments you may have, and thank you for your time. Bye.